All right. Hello, everybody. So we're back again. I'm Peter Jansen, and with me we're going to have Tim Vandervliet, and together we're going to discuss empathy today. So let's get started. Just getting Tim on board. There we go.
It works again. Hi.
Hi, Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the hang of this. So basically just housekeeping stuff. We're gonna keep it like you
Hmm.
suggested
Yeah.
at 45 minutes today, with about 15 minutes
Yeah.
of Q and A's. So let's do that. Um, Fantastic.
Me
Well, I'm
too.
very happy that we're back here
Yeah,
again.
really good. Yeah, I just came
How
back
are
from
you, man?
Barcelona and was really nice. I got an invitation. It was a really nice training. So we did the Wim Hof method, which is also a lot of me and then other breathing techniques and stuff like that. And it was funny. There were two people, a couple in from Bogota, from Colombia, and it said like they were
Hmm.
really nice,
Colombia.
and they said like, "So can you come to Bogota too?" And then the next day they came back, and by the way, my sister is living in Santiago in Chile, and you have to go there too. So this is you're like you don't have to advertise; it goes quite automatically so far. I'm of course very focused and very serious about what I do,
It's good.
but it's really nice. So I keep on traveling the world. Next weekend is Bergen in Norway at Zen in the City Festival. So if
Wow.
you're from Norway and you're living in Bergen and you're watching now, go there. Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. It sounds pretty cool, man. And I
There's
really
always the
wish I could
next
have been
time,
in
you know.
Barcelona with you.
So always a second chance. It's very
Yeah,
empathic.
we're gonna have them soon. Well, you're gonna be back
Yes,
here,
yes.
right?
I'm going
In
in
Spain soon.
Sevilla the last weekend of May and then the 1st of June in Madrid. And Mexico in June.
Cool.
So I'm also going to
So I
Mexico.
think,
So, well, yeah.
oh, fantastic, fantastic, and I think, are you
Well,
going to
I'm
go to
planning
London
11th,
anytime soon?
12th, but I don't have the feeling that the organizer is very serious. So I'm kind of already, thinking like that's probably not going to go through. But a big event is in Brighton, which is, of course, very close to London, and it's 22 and 23rd of June. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
22nd and 23rd of June. Okay,
And
22nd and 23rd of June. Okay, so for all of you friends in England, this
mm,
is a great opportunity in June to go see Tim and to get
yeah,
a life-changing experience over there. And today we're going to talk
yeah.
about empathy. Eh? How do you feel about that?
I think empathy is like the new gold. If you ask it like this, it's it's something that is really very important these days in leadership, in teaching, in parenting. You know, and we already had like a pre-talk. It's an amazing, interesting subject because often with words, we go in the mind, of course. People have with the same word a different definition and a different feeling. So the big question is actually like what is empathy actually?
That
Hmm.
is the question today, actually. What is empathy? So go ahead,
Yeah, so I was
let
having
us
dinner
know.
with my kids, and I was like, uh, "Okay, guys, I'm going to have another talk with Peter. So it's about empathy. So what is empathy?" And my son, who's 20, he can learn to be more empathic. I hope he's not watching. I'm pretty sure he's not watching. He has his own life. He said, look, I don't know. But my daughter of 15, she said, oh, that's selflessness. And that is an interesting. I think that is, yes, that is already a definition that I could definitely work with. And then for myself, empathy is, yeah, I would say, feeling somebody, or yeah, just I call it streetwise actually. If I talk to my kids, because empathy is like there you have like the spiritual dad or whatever, and he's going, here he goes again. So I rather call it streetwise. These kids that drop out of school because they don't fit in the school system, and they're basically very good with people. That's another definition of empathy. And like they become the Steve Jobs and the very successful business people, while they have zero education, or zero school education. So for me,
Yeah.
streetwise is, and then I'm actually thinking of, like how I talk to my kids. There's what you learn at school, which is math and, some biology, and so it's very all in the head. Streetwise is everything you don't learn at school. You don't learn at school. And this is basically, like to be able to read people, to be able to feel people, to be good with people, selflessness, not thinking like, okay, what's in it for me, like all the time, but just, like, okay, what's this other person thinking about it or feeling about it? And another way of saying it is to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, for example. This is like a common definition of empathy, I would say. But I'm always interested in what other people have to say about this, like what is empathy? So if people have a definition, please let me know, because I'm here a lot to learn always, in these talks. So,
This is the point. We're here. All of us are here to learn, and it's and for all of you to know this, Tim and I have a very clear understanding that it's not about him. It's not about me. It's about the value we can add.
I think so too.
And this
Yeah,
is why it works,
yeah,
right?
because we're getting a lot of
This is why it
views,
works.
like I'm every time amazed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Same. Well, I'm not amazed anymore. The first day I was like, whoa, but now
Yeah.
I'm like,
And in the beginning,
okay, it's good.
yeah, and in the beginning we
It's good.
were,
Now we
of
need
course,
to aim for
dropping the
more.
name Wim Hof, who is a very famous guy. But the last video was also very well watched, and it had nothing to do with Wim Hof. Sorry, man. Sorry, Wim, if you're watching. It's not about you anymore. Although,
It's about the
exactly,
value
yeah,
we can add through
yeah.
you as well, my friend. It's true. It's true. So here it is. I think everybody should understand the way. Again, I keep on coming back to
Hmm.
this guy, to Miyamoto Musashi. Because he's one of my favorite strategists. In fact, he's my favorite strategist. I keep coming back to him basically because in his ancient wisdom, he teaches quite a lot, even though he was very lonely, very, yeah, he was a ronin, so he was
Hmm.
a samurai that walked alone, you know? He teaches us quite a bit. And one of the things that he really teaches is the fact that the way of the warrior, and in the case of what we've been explaining, the way of life, is generally speaking the absolute, no, the resolute acceptance
Hmm.
of death. So we need to understand that all human beings have this one thing in common. And if all human beings have this one thing in common, that means that there's already this one fear and this one
Hmm.
emotion about the inevitable that unites us, And if that unites us, it unites us
Yeah.
through deep, profound emotions. And we can actually empathize
Hmm.
with these deep, profound emotions. Now, empathy, again, for everybody here to fully understand where we're coming from, the educational system, the system itself, has taken us down a route where we need to be logical,
Hmm.
process driven,
Hmm.
tactical about life, about
Yeah.
leadership,
It's
about pretty much everything. So, as such, the school system teaches us those skills. So it's a skill-driven society, based on
And
productivity, really,
based
essentially.
on
This is what it is.
thinking and not on feeling. And I don't want to, sound all too like woo-woo, but
Oh, this is it.
it's very old, the logical mind, and it's very just my opinion, and I think you can only form an opinion if you have all the information. So a true opinion, black and white, doesn't exist. There's only gray. So I'm very aware that my opinion is not per se true. But I lost it. Sorry, you gotta help me out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So in my
education based
opinion,
on
the
logic.
educational system is totally insufficient. Like what kids learn is basically to crawl in their head, and then once you're ready with your education, you gotta unlearn again. Now, let me be specific in this. I think also it's very wise to study, whatever. If you have the brains, you keep on studying until your head falls off. Because and this is just, I've been studying a lot. I did economy, like a master degree and then a postdoc, and I'm still studying. So to use your brain is extremely clever, but there's just more than only using your brain.
Well, there is. That's a point. I mean, the part of the logic, I
Okay,
would
cool.
say that
Yeah.
there's different types of logic, right? And there's different types of information that we can apply logic to. Now, in terms of what we're speaking of, I truly believe that, and you actually look at it more like watch your own lives out there, and you'll see how many decisions you actually make logically and how many decisions you make emotionally. Did you marry your partner out of logic or out of emotion? Did you have your first love out of
Did
logic or out of emotion? Did you shout at your kid for the first time
did you
out of
choose?
logic or emotion?
Yeah. Did you choose
How
your
about your
job
first kiss?
out of logic or out of emotion? It's. I think. Yeah.
Now
For me,
that's
it
an
was out of
incredible one
emotion. And it wasn't the
because
stock market or the option market. So very mind and numbers and stuff like that. But you're saying that we make more decisions out of emotion than out of logic. That's I think your point, right?
exactly. So the studies show that about 80% of our
Uh-huh.
decisions are made through emotion as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to logic, right? But
Mm-hmm.
emotion has a logic to it. This is an important thing to understand. Emotion has a logic to it. Now the thing is, if 80% of our
Mm-hmm.
decisions are made emotionally, this obviously means that 80% of our results
Yeah,
are
absolutely.
based on our emotions. So, but if we are basically uneducated in
Mm-hmm.
most part, in that part of decision making, which is the emotional side of intelligence, right? Emotional intelligence and empathy, then surely if we educate that,
Absolutely.
we'd achieve more results. So it's interesting to see how a society, not
Uh-huh.
even a society, a
Uh-huh.
civilization that is based on productivity still makes their decisions emotionally, yet only prepares
Yeah.
its people to make the decisions
And then I
intellectually.
completely agree. And then
Hmm.
you're saying also, so we're being extremely inefficient. So in other words, if we would learn to know our emotions better and learn to work with it, we become, 20%, 80% emotion. We become 5 times more, whatever you want to call it, productive, efficient, and this is, like Wim Hof is called a superhuman. But what is that superhuman? A lot of, like hipsters are like, yeah, superhuman, they have like this aura ring, it's actually in the end, it's about this, I think, to be able to understand your emotions better and therefore be more efficient in life, which is in the end work less and have more freedom so you're happier. It's very, yeah, right.
So, and so you can actually pass that
Definitely.
happiness on to others. And in the case of leadership, so that you can actually lead through emotional intelligence, you know? And this is an important thing, because for this you require empathy. Now, you know, you just said it right now. We've talked about it before, that you know, putting yourself in another person's shoes. Well, the problem with this, let me refer back to language here. You know, your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your
Nice. Yeah.
character becomes your destiny, right? So, as such, if we take that into consideration, if we say put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, it automatically, and a lot of NLP practitioners and master practitioners out there um, would I'm pretty sure be with me on this one. We automatically displace ourselves from us. So, in order for that statement to actually sink into our brain, what we need to do is put ourselves out of ourselves and into another
Yeah.
person's position, which essentially means we now lack the understanding because we're not in ourselves. So it gets a little confusing,
Yeah.
but I like to look at it this way. At the end of the day, a situation is a situation, and I want everybody to be clear on this. A situation is a situation. It's not a sentient being. It does not feel. It does not think. It does not hear. So you can scream at your situation, you can shout at it, you can cry at it, and it's not gonna give a rat's ass.
That's
It's
I
not gonna
actually have to
care,
think of, you
you
have these
know?
traders, and they're these days they're not in the trading pit anymore, but behind a computer, and they kill like one keyboard a week because they lose money, and they blame their keyboard. So yeah, so you're saying, like, you cannot control everything outside of you, basically. A situation. Yeah.
No,
So
it's a
yeah, good.
situation.
And yeah, please go on. Yeah.
And in order for us to actually manage to create that empathy, we need to understand the person's situation and put it into our own life. So instead of displacing ourselves from our life and into another person's shoes, bring their situation into us, you know? So it's more efficient, in my opinion, to create empathy by saying, how would this person feel? No, sorry. How would I feel if I was in this person's situation? What would I do if I were in their situation? Or what would I do in their shoes? Because it automatically takes you away from you, and you need you to create empathy. The most important empathy you can create
Yeah, like
is
know
with
yourself
yourself.
and you can know others, right? If you really know, because that's what I,
Yeah,
like,
and the understanding.
I'm just on the path, and I'm feeling very good about this path. But learning to know myself better makes me also, I dare showing more shit, if I might say it like that. I dare to be more vulnerable. So also when I'm teaching and I don't know something, I tell people, actually, I don't know. What do you think? And I just see what happens to people. That is actually really nice. So it's not that teacher that is up there and down there. The participant is there. It's actually here. I'm just teaching from experience, and I don't know everything. And the other way around, and I see this sometimes with teachers, that we learn, we hear a story, and we're sitting together listening, and the next day they tell that story as if they're the specialist in this specific subject, and that just gives me the, oh God, like, what is the point? Nobody asked you to do that. That is like, it's very unreal, basically. So, well, I just want to say that, because if you learn to know yourself more, you dare also to show that you don't know something, for example, which is very strong.
This is actually incredibly powerful. So I'm starting a mentorship program, and whoever I select, I need to know that it's a person that I trust, that it's a person that I can empathize with, but who can empathize with me. And I need to know one very important thing, that my trust is going to run so deep that I could actually open myself up to vulnerability. And why? Because the honest interaction between a mentor and an apprentice will definitely determine their course of progress throughout their career, you know, and their mentorship. And we need to understand as well, as mentors, we always need to know that there is a limit to where we can take people.
You're gonna,
You know,
I'm daring to say
number one,
no,
people have their own
right?
path.
Can you help me
You know,
with,
so
actually, not really. Yeah.
not that one. Yeah. And not only that, we need to understand when our expertise are no longer valid for that person, meaning we might reach a certain level and
Yes,
hey,
exactly.
it's
It's what you
time to
do with
leave the
your kids
nest.
too.
And believe me, yeah, and believe me, the mentor
Yeah,
knows
a good one.
before
Yeah.
the apprentice. So a good one, yeah, no. Another thing is that we cannot, and you know, we cannot mentor a person for everything. You know, I mean, you and I have been talking right now. This is our 5th Facebook Live, and we've probably already accumulated more than 10 hours just you and me talking all together, right? That's 10 hours. You've lived a life where you understand finance much more than me, even though I also did finance. I also was a stock market analyst, you know, but you understand it much more than me. And I would not dare coach somebody in finance. I have no reason to, and I have no reason to coach someone, to mentor someone in finance. The same as in all the techniques that you have, whether it be your own or whims or whatever, you know, those are your things that you've been doing for years and you've been developing. I mean, we might be talking quite a lot, but it does not, and it will never put me in a position where by talking I can get to know what you know and therefore mentor
That
someone
is, so
like you would.
mentoring
You
can
know,
actually
can't do
only be
that.
done by experiencing, because you know the process. I think it always goes like this, but correct me if I'm wrong. You know, like I learn something new. It starts with the head. Yeah, something, and we're talking personal development, right? Not like Spanish or something. Although you might even for language you might think the same. But first I learn with my head, and then it clicks, and then I start to live that path. And then comes the experience. And from experience is like very real. What we know is always changing. And if you start to live it, basically you can also be very authentic, because you can say, you know, like on a question like, well, this is what it does for me. You know, instead of this is the undivided truth. So for me, and that is just what I've learned,
Yes.
because I wrote a book like 8 years ago, and then I was very in my head basically, and I learned that I actually learned, because I think I'm quite close to my feelings too. It didn't feel right, and slowly but surely I just experienced, and I was already before I felt that people were saying like, you're so authentic, you know, and that is like one of the biggest compliments you can get. And now I really just say like, well, from my experience, it's like this and this and this. But we're a bit sidetracking, because about empathy, I read like I read, so it started here, like 10 years ago or something. It's something about intelligence, and since IQ is based, you know, the intelligence test is based basically on mathematics and how good you know languages, but not speaking, but reading. Yeah, so it's very in your head, and that's IQ, and intelligence is basically IQ. And then in this piece, it said something like there were like 8 or 9 forms of intelligence. Like, yes, definitely mathematics, but then another form of mathematics, which is more like statistics. So that's logics and statistics, it's a different form of mathematics. Languages, yes, so that's three. But then some people have like extreme body intelligence, like oh yeah,
And the
musical
musical
abilities, being able to
abilities.
sing. Artists, like some artists know nothing about mathematics, but they're amazing, So artists, and then, well, you can come up with maybe a few more, but then empathy is also a form of intelligence, and we call this emotional intelligence or emotional quotient, also EQ instead of IQ. And then if
EQ.
you and this is again my opinion, doesn't have to be right, but I think that if you look at all those forms of intelligence, what is the most important? I think is empathy. And what is important? How do you add most value to other people's lives? By, of course, music, art, and also
Well, you
by
just said it.
having brains, being able to remembering things, whatever, being politically correct. I don't know, I'm not. And but with empathy, you really move people's lives. So for me, that's at this moment, that's the highest form of intelligence.
The thing is this, because it actually
Yeah.
involves other people, you know, it can actually synergize and exponentially grow,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So the key thing here is how do we
Yes. Mm-hmm.
actually achieve it, right? How do we achieve it? Well, let me say, we all have experiences, right? We all have experiences. We've all lived, we've all had experiences. We all know how we felt in certain situations. Well, the key thing is to understand those situations, understand those
Mm-hmm.
experiences, understand your emotions. I'll get you through 6 emotions that are that have been scientifically studied as
Yes.
being the universal ones. And what I mean by this is Dr. Paul Ekman actually went off into different types of communities around the world, including really, really untouched
Mm-hmm.
jungle communities, right? Tribes. And he discovered that there are certain facial expressions depending on the way the person would feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so he discovered these 6 that no matter where you live, no matter what religion you have, what belief structure you adhere to, what country you grew up in, how many times you've moved, these 6 are universal, and those 6 are
Mm-hmm.
fear, joy. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
an important
For
one.
me
I'll
too.
show you
Yeah.
why joy is very important.
Ew. Yeah.
Disgust, yeah, that.
Mm-hmm.
Contempt,
Nasty. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, uh-huh. Um, then you have
Mm-hmm.
anger or rage,
Mm-hmm.
and finally you have
It's
sadness.
like, yeah.
So here's a question: 6, that's it. But out of those
Then,
6, how
Dylan,
many would we consider
I missed the
positive?
word love. Can we add one? Love? Oh,
We can't, and I'll explain why it's not a universal one. Because love is not a
okay,
unique
go on.
emotion. You see, love is a mixture of
Uh,
emotions.
yeah.
So you have the joy part, but you have the
Mm-hmm.
sadness part when you're away from somebody. Yeah, or when you lose somebody. You also have the
Mm-hmm.
fear of loss of love that goes into it. So it jumps. Love is one of those very, very interesting ones that even biochemically it's difficult to determine. Some people will say, no, love, it's
Mm-hmm.
oxytocin. Not only. If you really love someone or something, you will experience a range of
And these are the
emotions
6
for it.
emotions that you just
This
described,
is what's interesting.
right? when you're in love, you're in
Yeah,
complete joy. Other,
yeah.
you know, like, yeah, I feel it.
But
Yeah,
then if
and
you
then,
stop seeing
or
the
if
person,
she,
what happens?
whatever, walks away, if you might feel contempt, you know, like you. So this, it's very interesting. What you really make me think differently. So thanks. Yeah, yeah.
That's the beauty about love, that it's not one single emotion that
Mm,
occurs in one specific moment. It's a collection of emotions that occurs, you know,
mm,
in a combination of situations, you know. So this is the brilliant thing about it, which is why it is so interesting to see when people fall in love, what's actually going on in their lives. Some people will fall in love
mm.
out of intensity. Yeah, they
Oh
live
yeah,
an
yeah.
intense
That
situation
happens a lot.
together.
If something bad happens and like you survive,
Yeah.
and then you know you had this common, you know, like whatever, if it's beautiful or not beautiful, and this is how you, it's about connection then, actually, you know, like, but
You
we're talking
build
now
a
about
very strong
love in
connection.
relationship and not about unconditional love for your kids, or is that the same?
Unconditional love for your kids will still have a
Mm,
range of emotions to it. A lot of times it's
mm,
joy for the first time you see them, the first time you hear them
mm,
say daddy or mommy, the first time you see them
yeah.
walking, you know, to discuss the first time they poo in their pant in their diaper and you got to change that and you think, where did all that come from? You know, or somehow they manage to aim right at your face when they pee. You know, this kind of things, you go, oh, you might even have a
Yeah.
little bit of contempt to them, if
Mm,
they do something you don't want them to, you know, or you might get
mm,
angry because they did something. It doesn't mean you stop loving them. It means that
yeah.
love is actually a combination of all these things, and these things are fixed in time. You know, there's
Mm,
even though you live only in the now you have one emotion. The only emotion that you could have is joy if you're focused in the now, because sadness is the memory of that which you do not longer possess, so, or of somebody who is no
mm,
longer with you, etc., etc. But it's in the past. Sadness requires a focus in the past, as fear requires a focus in the future. You know, this is why anxiety comes in,
mm,
stress comes in, because you're focused in the future, and there you go into
mm.
your sympathetic
Fight or
system
flight, also. Yeah.
completely. Um,
Running. Yeah.
yeah, that's what it is. The moment you're in fear, your adrenal glands start going, you
Mm,
know, cortisol, adrenaline, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's an issue.
mm.
So the point is that we have those six emotions. So if you understand how those six emotions work with you, you're very capable of understanding how those six
Yes.
emotions work with somebody else. Yeah. But if you don't understand it within yourself,
Mm,
how
mm.
can you understand it with somebody else? You know, we also have emotional needs. And I like using the Chloe Medena's uh, need structure, which is basically security, variety, recognition,
Mm.
love and connection,
Right. Yeah.
growth, and contribution. So there's people who will be going into that we need to look at their two
Mm,
top needs, you know, out of those six. And we all understand what these things mean, you know, security, feeling safe, having a job, having
mm,
food on the table, roof over your head, you know. Um, then
mm.
variety, going on holiday,
Yeah, it's
not
very
eating the same
important.
thing every single day,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
having a variety of things
Yeah.
that you can eat. It's very important. Um, then the other one is recognition, knowing that you're doing something
Yeah.
important in
Because
this world, that
knowing,
you can be recognized
yeah,
for it,
because giving
even if it
value
is
and
through your
being
children.
recognized for it, you know, some, you know, like over spiritual people will say, like, oh, I don't need that. Well, maybe I'm not so spiritual. I do need that. You know, I need a pat on the shoulder sometimes, you know, so that's, and I agree. That is very important recognition.
I would even say that a person who
Hmm.
believes they don't need it
I believe that too.
is
And
lying
is,
to
you know,
themselves.
very much in their head as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially if you go, I
I
don't, like, you know, you're meditating, I
don't,
don't have an
yeah.
ego, I don't have the
I'm always
mind.
making
You
jokes.
know?
Like
I
teachers say,
don't
like,
need
I don't have an
recognition.
ego anymore. Like, so who the hell's talking? And who did put that fake teeth in their mouth? You know, they're all shiny and white in the morning. You know, like, well, that's another subject. But yeah, okay. So recognition, that was number 3. Number 4, do you have more examples? Absolutely. Without
Love
that,
and
life is
connection.
worthless. Definitely.
That's exactly it.
No,
And it doesn't matter who you love or
yeah,
what you love,
because some
but what
people
matters is the
love
balance of it.
animals, some people love
You
a
see?
partner or kids, but some people are in love with cooking, for example, and they make this food that makes you yahoo, you know, because they put love in the food, you know. So yeah, connection with whatever can be a thing too, you know. Like
Exactly.
I have a strong connection with these glasses, for example.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But that's because they help you see. So you might have a
Yeah.
strong connection with your world in front of you.
Mm.
I have a strong connection to my musical instruments, for example. You know, I will travel anywhere where I move in the world.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
musical instruments come with me. But my love is for, you know, all the things that I love and all the people I love. My wife,
Hmm.
my family, you know, my friends. But it has to be balanced
Hmm.
out, especially when it comes to people. Because if you love more than they love you, that can create an imbalance and it can create a differential between
Hmm.
the expectation of your life and the experience of your life. You might love somebody up here, this person loves you down there, and you expect them to be at the same level, but the experience is
Yeah.
this. This here is in
I,
conformity, this here
I
is
wanted to say unhappiness.
lack of
Exactly. Yeah.
happiness. Yeah, so you need to balance it out. The other thing is the most important thing you need to love yourself before you can
Mm.
actually love somebody else. Because if you love somebody else more than you love yourself, this is not love,
Might be, but
it's
and then on the other
obsession.
hand, there's in my dictionary, I would want to say there's no black and white. You know, like, do I love myself? Absolutely, but
Mhm.
am I like always fond of what I'm doing? Absolutely not. You know, so it is like whenever you're over 50%, you're already growing. That's another thing. Wasn't that another one? Growth,
That's
because
good.
I think growth, yeah, growth is
That's the next one.
that is just evolution,
Growth.
you know, and that is growth. So absolutely necessary. Yeah,
Growth is really very essential. If you don't grow,
and become
we
unhappy.
essentially die. So let me put
Mm.
you become very, very unhappy. The thing is this growth is so essential to life that we need to understand that change
Hmm.
occurs. Change happens no matter what. Yeah, it is there. It's automatic. If you don't grow as time
Definitely.
changes,
Yeah.
time leaves you behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is as simple as
Hmm.
that. Life leaves you behind. And people who are scared of change are usually scared of growing. It's okay to be scared of change, but you still need to
And
confront it
that
and
is
you still
something that
need
in
to
my
grow.
past life made me grow. At a certain moment, like I was in a very shitty position, love wise, basically. And I decided just from one day to the other, you know, I'm going to do everything I'm afraid. And that doesn't mean jumping in front of a driving bus, you know, like not in that sense, but just like I feel like, you know, like to say something to somebody, but I would be shy, and I clearly feel the fear of being shy. I would say it anyway. You know, so do the things you're afraid of. You know, fear is okay, but do them anyway. That is probably some famous quote, you know, like it doesn't feel like I make this up right now, but that is very important, you know.
Yeah, I believe so. And I think we've all had the situations like that. And if anybody hasn't had a situation in their life when they're not in fear or
Mm,
in a shitty place with whatever, and you haven't, then you have never
mm,
grown,
yeah,
and that's a bad thing. You know, you know what they say. You know what the
great.
enemy of great is?
Absolutely. How are you doing?
Yeah,
Good.
Yeah.
great. And but on the other hand, like it's a bit, I don't know, maybe a bit superficial. Like if somebody just knows this and always would say, "I'm great," it's true. Good is the enemy of great, but being honest about your feelings, and this is what I come back to, like how do you develop more empathy? And I get back to also my own training is to know yourself better, and to know yourself better is partly here, but the big thing is physically. So how do you learn to know yourself better? For me, like short daily exercise. So the energy is flowing, the blood is flowing, um, breathing
Yeah.
techniques, of course, a bit of cold training. And this is all physical, this is all body wise. Nutrition, it's also body wise. And then the last one is a certain way of thinking. I like paradoxes, I call this the power of paradox. And that is just for me a way of thinking on how to have a clear head, I would want to say. But so it's exactly the same as you just said, 20% mental and 80% physical, or body intelligence. And body intelligence is just another word for intuition. Because if you say something and I feel like my heart tickling, I'm like, shut up, Tim. Listen to that guy. So, and that is what body intelligence eventually gives you, is knowing yourself better, not immediately reacting to something on the automatic pilot, and snapping, for example,
Yeah.
and therefore eventually be more empathetic. And I feel too that sometimes I can really feel somebody's emotions, and sometimes I even cry with a friend who, like a friend of mine lost her mother. She cries, I cry with her. Not per se because I will miss her mother, but just I feel her emotion, and by crying with her, we
Feel
together
the pain.
solve some crap, hopefully. So to get to the point, how do you develop empathy? Is actually to work on it every day with baby steps, but with discipline at the same time. So no rules, but guidelines. Yeah, like so morning exercise, a bit of breathing or whatever,
Yeah.
and work on it. Also, you can do that. You don't need a lot of time for that. You can do that while sitting in the train to work, or while waiting for the coffee machine, or whatever. You can always use both physical and mental exercises to train yourself. I call this always my training. Also when something out of line is happening, something goes wrong, just a training. Like I travel a lot these days, that those airplanes and the traveling is very tiring for your body. I just see this as a physical training. That's
Yes.
it. And it's a very nice way of looking at things,
Yeah.
because if you see it as a training, it doesn't necessarily have to be negative.
Oh, it doesn't. Again, I'll
Yeah,
refer you back to Miyamoto Musashi, and he says, take training as
nice.
part of your day-to-day life, because it's what it is no matter what you're doing, if you keep on training, you are
Hmm.
going to be ready for the situations. But train as if you
Hmm.
were in the situations.
Hmm.
You know, it's not good to train, at 80% of your capability if you're going to find yourself in a position where you're going to be
Yeah,
lacking
but
20%
then
of
then I
it.
have right now you say this I actually believe in light training. So like if this is my 100% and every day I train to 50, 70%, so I don't, like in if you look at going to the gym, for example, yeah, you don't overwork yourself so you get too much muscle pain and it depletes your energy. If you train to 50, 70%, before you
Yeah,
know it,
no.
your 100% is growing. And well, my 50% now, like 2 to 4 hours of sleep, maybe drinks last night, a busy day, that's 50%. Is more than the 100% I had 5 or 10 years ago.
Well, that's also the
Uh,
point. You need to scale it up.
okay,
I
yeah.
meant in the
Okay,
mental
cool.
attitude part of it. You know, in the mental
Hmm.
attitude part of it, like especially visual
Yes,
mental
I agree.
rehearsals and stuff like that. You know, I like to train at 100% because
Mm.
if not, what's going to happen when I do have to confront a situation where I'm, in real trouble? This is why when
Yeah,
I sit down to think, and I
yeah, you told me.
automatically looked at my thinking chair. Um, so when I sit down and think, the first thing that happens is I think with as much of
Mm,
my
mm,
capacity as I
mm.
possibly can get out of myself, you know, because it
I
makes
agree.
no sense
I
to think
agree.
halfway. So, but I believe that the physical part is
Hmm.
equally as important
Hmm.
as the mental part and equally as
Mm,
important
that's
as the
interesting.
linguistic part. Because you see,
Hmm.
I look at it as a triangle, and emotions are always composed of three parts:
Hmm.
the physical focus, the linguistic focus, and the mental focus. So the physical focus, we have things
Mm,
like breathing,
mm.
like positioning,
Exercise.
postures,
Yeah.
exercise,
Hmm.
nutrition. Yeah. On the linguistic part, we have the way that
Hmm.
we think and talk. The words that come out and the words that create our actions, that create our
Hmm.
habits, that
Yeah.
create our character, that create our life. And the mental part is
Hmm.
what's going on in here, our thoughts, our processes, and they're all intertwined. There's no
Absolutely.
way to
Yeah.
divorce one from the other.
Hmm.
It's as simple as that. So I believe that if we're able to physically be at one with our mental focus and our linguistic focus, we're going to be able to really control, manage, expand,
Hmm.
understand our emotions. And if we're able to do that properly, and
Hmm.
there's only six that we need to understand, and there's only
Hmm.
six emotional needs that we need to understand, then if we do that with ourselves, we can go out to the world and we can understand through one very simple thing. One, this is Stephen Covey. He said, seek first to understand and then
Okay.
to be
So listen
understood.
first before you. Nice. Yeah.
He said, you got two of these and one of those, use them in that proportion. I say, it's our job
Hmm.
to do a lot of this, but it's also our job to
Yeah.
do a lot of that
So
and a
you're
lot of
pointing at
that.
your ears and your eyes, right? Yeah.
So,
So,
yeah, of
so
course. Yeah, radio. Thank you.
yeah, that is very powerful because, if we talk about parenting or leadership or school system or teaching, it's exactly this, like if you're able to watch people and see where they are at, basically, and if you're able to listen to people, that is, I would say that's more important than giving your unasked advice. I have this Tim philosophy that is not has not anything to do with my personal development, but just my whole life I've been thinking like that. Is if somebody gives you unasked advice, you don't listen to it. Only listen to advice that somebody is telling you. So, and then like I put this in a quote once: only listen to advice you didn't ask for, and then between brackets, sorry, mom. Right, because
That's good.
yeah,
That's good.
go ahead.
Um, yeah, no, it's very true. It's very true. Sometimes the last persons
Yeah,
that we
and
listen
and
to are the ones that we
let
really should.
like parents are often. I know I'm a parent myself, and I do tell my kids this. Like parents are often like, shouldn't you worry about blah blah blah? Just give that unasked advice, and especially when kids become teenagers, they want to develop their own stuff. So my strategy when it comes to parenting, and I've been like a house father, stay-at-home dad, you call it in English, for like 2.5 or 3 years. It's the most difficult management job I've ever done. It's like, like so difficult. But I have like basically
Mhm.
two rules. One is you have your own path, and this you can do this. If you're a leader and you manage people, this is actually the same. One, you have your own path. What I'm saying with that is, I trust you. I trust you. I trust you even in that you will make
Yep.
mistakes. And number two is you can talk to me about anything. You know, Daddy has so many crazy friends all over the world that whatever happens to you, really, you can drop it with me, and you know, if you don't want me to remember, I won't. You know, so and then when you talk about leadership, I think that is my way. The way I work is if somebody's working for me, or I don't call it for me, but with me, I trust you. So go ahead, just make the decisions. And if you
Yeah.
screw over, it's also okay. The other side, you can talk to me about anything. If I can trust you, it means that's a lot less work for me because you go ahead and with a good feeling because you feel trusted. You get, you know, to be responsible. And then the second thing is you can talk to me about anything. Whenever you need help, my door is open. And if you keep on trusting people, whether it be your kids or the people that work for you, if you keep on trusting people, also trust them to make mistakes. And then whenever they do make a mistake or they just need advice, they are welcome, you know, then you become the opposite of a control freak. And this is, I think, old management, you know, like the guy that if he yeah, exactly.
The
And he wants
micromanager.
to be in everything because, you know, he feels he or she, of course, feels so important. Well, and a person like that, if he or she would leave the company would fall down. But true leadership is from trust. And if I'm trusted by something and I am able to be responsible, you know, for whatever I'm doing, and I will do not only my job better, but I will be happier and I would want to work harder and for sure I will be more productive.
You see, the thing is this: leadership is not about the leader; it's
Exactly.
about the people. It's as simple as that. And a leader who wants to micromanage, he's not a leader; he's a manager. Full
Like that.
stop. And there's a really big difference. No matter how much that
Hmm.
person wants to pretend that they're a leader, they
Yeah.
are a manager, and it is as simple as that. One
Good.
day we'll
Yeah.
talk about the levels of leadership, but that's very important. And to be honest, the empathy is so interestingly important in leadership today, and so
Hmm.
many times neglected. Um, in fact, I'm gonna say this. In the next
Hmm.
month or so, I'm gonna be a guest on a podcast for the
Right.
change management review, and uh, and then I'm gonna do a webinar with them. I think it's on the 25th of
Yeah.
May or 22nd of May, something like this. And it's basically about this because a lot of change managers and a lot of people who deal with change, and every leader deals with change because if
But
there's no
and there
change,
is no
there's
if
no need
there's no
for a
change,
leader.
there's no universe
Yeah.
basically. So that is never going to happen. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there you go. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. So, in change management, a lot of people have become very
Mm.
attached to the tactics, the
Mm.
strategies of change, the mechanics of change. But they haven't realized that at the other side of change, there are people who are
Mm.
going to follow
Mm.
through the plan or not. You know, you're going to have 25% of the people are going to love you and love the change that you're implementing.
That
50% of the people are undecided, and another 25% of the people hate you and hate the plan
yeah.
and have resistance to it. And it's basically your job to keep the 50% of the people who are not satisfied, who are
Yeah.
undecided, away from the
Yeah. Yeah.
25% of the people who hate you. You know,
And how you
and
do
it's
that,
normal. This is
I'm
okay.
just
This
following
is
on with this
okay.
example, is by being empathic, you know, by being real basically and being
Exactly.
honest and being able to listen and being able to see and not per se talk too much, which is a mhm.
Because leadership is
Yeah,
about others, which is why
beautiful.
you have to be empathic. It's as simple as that.
Oh, of
We
course.
ran over our time, but of course, no
So
surprise
yeah,
there for us.
I think it's a beautiful
So if
way
we have
to
any
end this
questions,
also, you know. Leadership is about other people. Absolutely amazing. And that other thing that you
it
told me that
absolutely
you
is.
just said is by not putting yourself in other in somebody else's shoes, but put that person in your own shoes. You know, like that is amazing too. So if somebody, like a very simple example, hits their toe against a chair, you know, if I would place myself in that person's shoes, I would just say, okay, pain, right? But if I would place him in my shoes, I would feel like, you know, like, and I would really feel what is actually
Yeah.
happening.
You place the situation in your life, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah,
okay, I
it's
get
nice,
it. Yeah,
nice.
this is it. Okay, so if we have any questions,
Not just
if we
some
don't have any
remarks.
questions, we're gonna go and we'll answer
Thank
them
you, Antonka,
online later.
that you find it interesting, and thank you, Alex.
Hey Tony, how are you? Lovely to see that you're watching. And Alex,
Yeah.
man, it's awesome to have you here. Okay, so if anybody has any questions, this is the moment to ask them. If not, what we need to do is when you've watched this, if you have any questions, just type them on
Yeah, and we will get back.
in the comments below, and we're happy to yeah, we'll write back, you know, and we will let you know when we do the
Mm-hmm.
next one and what we're going to be doing it on.
Yes.
For now, we're going to leave it as a surprise for everybody, including
Nice.
ourselves.
Okay.
You know?
Thanks a lot.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
It's been
Thanks. See you
wonderful.
later,
Thanks
man.
a lot, my
Thanks.
friend. Take care.
Bye.
All right. See you later. Bye.